Ahoy hoy everybody, and welcome to Talking Simpsons, the LaserTime Podcast Network's chronological exploration of The Simpsons. I am your host, Bob Mackey. Who else is here today?
Henry Gilbert.
Christopher Wildfire Antista.
Ooh.
I'm Dave Rudden, and I want you to play with my ding-a-ling.
Uh-oh. Maybe later. Anyways,
Num good salt lick.
Today we're going to be talking about Lisa's Pony, a great episode. It aired on November 7th, 1991. Chris, what happened on this mythical day in history?
I'm not sure if you'd believe me. Geraldo and Bette Midler air their dirty sex talk on radio. The absent-minded professor, Fred McMurray, is dead at 82. And for the first time in a month, 60 Minutes unseats Roseanne at the top of the TV ratings.
Fred McMurray, great in Double Indemnity. Please see
Double Indemnity, fucking great.
Yes, indemnity is a hard word to say. No one knows what it means anymore.
I've had 3 beers.
He was also the Shaggy Dog, right?
He was no, he was not.
The Shaggy.
No, he's in the Shaggy Dog.
Was Fred McMurray the one in Pet Sematary?
No,
he's
in My
Fred
Three
Wynn.
Sons. In a great movie I just saw, The Apartment with Jack Lemmon.
Oh, really?
Where he plays a philanderer.
It's funny, like, Fred McMurray is known for Disney, like, wholesome Disney stuff, but...
Follow Me Boys, one of my favorites.
Double Indemnity is a story where he's an insurance agent that helps a woman kill her husband to get his money and to
Really
get her
good.
body. Okay, so this episode, I want to point out, is directed by Carlos Baeza, one of the more unsung directors on The Simpsons. He only worked for a few seasons, but he's great. I love how his episodes look, and Chris, he was an animator on Tummy Trouble.
What?
Yes, what is Tummy Trouble? Please
The
explain.
Roger Rabbit short that I believe it aired with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was
Who-
the City Slickers one.
No, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? No, there was no City Slickers one.
Oh, I thought there was.
Just Dick
Damn.
Tracy and
Great
Cheetah.
Panda Adventure.
Yeah, one of those terrible foreign, not foreign films,
Animal
but where
films.
white people travel to a foreign land film
Yeah.
that Disney was doing a lot.
But
in
this episode
early
has...
90s.
Oh, sorry. This episode...
Tummy Trouble is great. Please
is
go
really
watch
good,
that.
yeah.
It's one of the best. It might be the best Roger Rabbit short.
Can you buy those shorts?
They're
anywhere?
on every DVD that
good.
you can buy.
Cool. So this episode on every DVD. Wow.
Roger Rabbit DVD.
Okay, thank
on
God.
all the digitally versatile discs. Again,
this
3
episode-
beers. Apologies.
Again, Carlos Baeza, he helped direct the beautiful Golden Slumber sequence we'll talk about later. But this episode is about Lisa getting a pony. And where do we start with this episode? It starts with a parody of 2001. Do we have that? Or
But there's not much to get at.
it's
It's
all
grunting.
visual, yeah.
Well,
But it's more that, like I said, last episode was the perfect cartoon, and this is The Simpsons becoming the perfect Simpsons show.
So-
yeah, and I think
a
there's
weird premise. You won't see this on a normal sitcom.
Well-
It's animated well. It's funny from beginning to end.
And I think there's
Great.
a better 2001 parody in Homer the Heretic next season, where I think it is the monolith
him
scene
in
and everything. In the
yeah,
womb, too.
It's him in the womb.
Yeah.
But this episode is written by Al Jean and Mike Reese, who were also overseeing the show at this point. And the inspiration from it is their extreme exhaustion from having to work so hard on the show.
and neglecting their children, too.
And neglecting their children.
Wow.
But at this time on the show, too, this was them. They're a couple years away from creating The Critic, and at least the opening is a very Critic opening. Like,
opening with a parody?
Yeah, opening
Yeah.
with a parody
Yeah.
to kill time. Like, that's something else that Gene and Reese always talk about on their things is they were always short. They always needed more time. They needed the Flanders bit at the end of the one episode. Like,
But if you haven't seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, you should.
I
But
agree.
You also shouldn't feel bad because there is no way any of you saw this. The 2001 before this episode.
40
No
minutes of
way.
that movie is a screensaver, to be honest. But it's a beautiful screensaver.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
2001.
The Simpsons' relationship with 2001 is kind of similar to its deal with Citizen Kane for me because I saw a million references to it and then I finally saw the movie. Now, it was more obvious, the references to 2001, and my parents were like, oh, this is 2001. They always
This
identified
one
it.
is an unmistakable parody.
But I didn't see 2001 until 95, and I only watched it because my dad bet me $5 I could not stay awake for the entire
Wow.
thing. And I did, but only because of that bet, because once Hal is dead and he is approaching, nothingness, and nothing fucking happened.
What? It's 16 minutes of visual effects
It is
from the 1970s.
It is the take your acid moment, I think.
Yeah.
I know but I think 90 minutes of that film is such an amazing story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The fight them versus Hal on a spaceship is just great.
So great.
I love that. But anyway,
It's the 1970s. What else are you doing with your time? Like,
But
watch
this
this.
it
for
opens
50
with a
more
2001 parody, but really opens with a phone call.
Dad, I'm calling about the school talent show.
Don't worry, I know it's tonight.
No, Dad, I broke my last saxophone reed and I need you to get me a new one.
Isn't this the kind of thing your mother's better
I
at?
called her. She's not home. I also tried Mr. Flanders, Aunt Patty, Aunt Selma, Dr. Hibbert, Reverend Lovejoy, and that nice man who caught the snake in our basement.
Wow, and after them, out of all the people in the world, you chose me.
That's not insincerity. That's just Homer becoming the greatest Homer ever.
I wonder if there's that man who caught the snake in our basement on Wiki. An entry for that guy. I'm sure there is.
Well, they don't have the baker from the last episode that was somehow like a cop or something.
No.
But they do have Aunt Bella from Stark Raving Dad. So.
Yeah, though this is also a Gene and Reese thing that especially Gene, he loves Lisa Homer stories. He wrote, I believe they wrote Moaning Lisa, the first Lisa-centric episode of the series, too.
I think secretly they're the episodes most likely to win them Emmys, too. They would freely admit that. An emotional story with Homer and Lisa, two characters that have nothing in common.
I mean, it's most obvious in the one where they kill Bleeding Gums Murphy, which is not a great episode.
I agree, and they said flat out we wanted to win an Emmy with that one.
Yeah, the credits show it. It was one of the rare teleplay credits. So
That's
they
right,
they could be on the story credit, meaning they'd win the Emmy. Like they were thinking that far ahead, like, oh, we'll totally win an Emmy for this. Like
double Emmys.
Don't count your Emmys before they're handed to you at Kodak Theater. People.
Wow.
I just have a note as Skinner as being so great, like perfect Skinner as well.
I do want to say, Chris, that we see the very last of Skinner's initial character trait, mispronouncing things. I think it's the last time he says stormy leather instead of stormy weather.
I have 3 Skinner clips in a row.
Well, you're in for a whale of a show tonight. I'd like to point out that the doors are now locked, so you parents can't sneak out of the show after your own child has performed. Oh, and let me caution the people in the first 5 rows, you will get wet.
That feels like a Gallagher reference.
Yeah.
It is.
I didn't bother to check, but is that the same crowd from the Christmas pageant? Just some of the characters
they're drawn much better.
Yeah,
I mean,
some of them look bad.
Well, there's still the point of they don't have a full character pack. They're like, well, we have to fill this out. Okay, here's a season 1 drawing of somebody.
I wonder if Just Stamp the Ticket guy was in that audience. Does he have a kid? Does he have a wife? I need to know.
Speaking of season 1 characters, why is Bleeding Gums Murphy on the judging panel when they have a music teacher? And he's been introduced.
Largo.
But come on, wouldn't you want a published musician?
I wonder if that really was Ron Taylor doing his voice. I didn't check the credits.
Not.
I didn't think
way.
so. But
it is his laugh.
We do see Lunch Lady Doris for the very first time again. Doris
Really?
Grau.
Yeah,
Yes,
she was
doing a great job.
She was the waitress in Izzy's. She played the waitress in Izzy's Deli a couple episodes ago, but that was not Doris, Lunch Lady Doris.
Yeah, and she was also a nurse too. So I think Lunch Lady Doris.
I get 2 paychecks this way.
That's right. Thank God.
More Skinner.
My ding-a-ling, my ding-a-ling, I want you to play with my ding-a-ling.
This act is over. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to put this filth behind us. Let's all enjoy Lisa Simpson's rendition of Stormy Weather.
That's old Skinner.
Homer has not shown up with a read yet.
So
Lisa's
my ding-a-ling. Let's
Dude,
talk about this.
I knew that whole song and I've lost it all.
Can we close with my ding-a-ling?
I
That'd
would
be
love
great.
to because we sung it all. I wanted to close to something else, but if you prefer Bob, it's all you.
Either that or Golden Slumbers.
It's only a personal thing. I'll get to it.
But My Ding-a-Ling is a Chuck Berry song.
It's a real
novelty
song, all about your dick.
Well, the ding-a-ling he talks about is a bell gift given to him by his mom,
Very common
but
gift.
lots of puns.
It's full of puns.
I can't even remember the song. We sung it at camp together.
I believe
with children.
I believe in one part his ding-a-ling gets bit by a turtle while he's going through a swamp. And he's like, I heard bells ring,
and that was the end of my ding-a-ling-a-ling.
Now, the thing they talk about on the commentary is that that's a Chuck Berry song. Chuck Berry songs are very hard to clear because Chuck Berry is a crazy person, and you have to find him in person and give him cash in person, and he has to want to accept it.
And you have to find him in between, like him watching women shit on a glass table above his face.
Yeah.
So he's hanging out with Danny
Or
Thomas.
you have to find his cousin Marvin.
Yes.
Marvin Berry.
Marvin Berry, who scouts everything for him.
Yeah, Chuck Berry. Chuck Berry is famous for
Was he a sex offender?
He filmed. He owned a restaurant, I believe it was, and he secretly filmed the women's bathroom.
That sounds like him.
He was famous for wanting to be farted on in bed. He was the early R. Kelly for bathroom.
Somebody's got to do it.
It doesn't make you a bad person, Hank.
It does not. But
I'll talk about that later.
I'm sure the women who farted on him were over 18, so it's better than R. Kelly.
Yeah, but the thing is,
You gotta get them preteen farts.
Anyway, the thing is that he's almost impossible to get clearance for, and so the way they got it was they got the producer of Simpsons Sings the Blues,
Oh God,
who knew knew Chuck Berry, Buck Cherry in person. Is that guy's name actually meant to be a reference to
Did
Chuck
I just
Berry?
blow your mind?
Wow, I never thought.
Oh
anyway,
my God.
The point.
I love the cocaine.
So yeah, that guy had to. The only reason My Dingling is in there because they were able to get a producer who knew Chuck Berry.
Oh man, that's like their Herb Alpert connection.
I know, it's nuts, man.
But, Homer does not show up in time to give Lisa a read, and
It's a 4.5 read.
I just with the 4.5 read. I love all that stuff. It didn't sound good in clips.
And again, King Toots is established to be next to Moe's, and it has always been next to Moe's ever since. So
except for the movie.
Oh man, that's
the
right.
movie. The church is next to it.
They needed a joke of the church next to it. But
It's a great joke.
It is a great
It's
joke.
worth it.
But when they remember to put it there, King Toots is there. That would come back in another Gene and Reese episode where Lisa gets her sax.
I happen to be that moron.
So granted, Homer is a jerk for going to get beer before going to the music shop.
And Marge predicts it. It's like, that's about right.
Yeah, but also
Such a good guess.
Lisa should have known enough to tell him the exact type of read to speed up the process.
Yeah,
did she say alto or
She
soprano?
didn't say alto or
As a dad,
alto
how can you
tenor.
forget buying a saxophone? It's Dave.
Yeah.
Dave, for reference, it's more than any PlayStation you've ever bought.
I know, but still,
they're expensive.
But still,
They're really expensive.
Mr. B Natural was shilling those things, and they were a lot of money.
I forgot that there was the alto or soprano part, which is that's probably an important thing to note.
Tenor.
Alto or
And
tenor.
you know what? They're so cheap. I was like, Homer, just buy two.
Yeah.
Just buy two. Buy both.
I'm guessing he bought both.
But he didn't get there in time.
Well, I do like the Doris Grass says, that's a whole lot of nothing. I like that line too. And Homer saying,
That'll do.
It's not my fault. It's the reed.
Oh, yes, of course. It's the reed. Let's hear it for Lisa Simpson and her wacky sax.
Such a dick.
I love patronizing Scudder and her wacky sax.
also, I liked Homer said, me and my trenchant mouth. That
What was I thought that was a joke I missed.
It's just a thesaurus word. It means
Yeah.
I
know, but
Very
I felt
accurate
did
in
I-
cutting, I think.
Did I miss this thing where he's learning a word a day?
Yeah.
Or,
I don't think
no,
so.
we're not up to the vocabulary builder that he said
Yeah.
instead of getting his weight loss mnemonic devices. But yeah, I also like that when Homer takes a gum off his shoe, right before that, they do draw the gum on his shoe.
That's right, yeah.
Baeza was smart enough to keep that in. But
Yeah. Also, Homer making a note to fill a hole in his shoe when I have very terrible shoes right now. I don't know if you guys can see
playing
that.
real well in audio.
Yeah.
Are those,
they're bad.
Are those Chuck Taylors or not?
Chuck Berry.
Because they
Yeah, they're Chuck
disintegrate
Berry.
like in the sun, I
Yeah.
think.
These are my dinglings.
Oh,
Job
wow.
where you work at home, you'll never have to wear shoes again.
Yeah, that's exactly, and it rarely rains here, so I never notice until every 4 months. Why are my feet wet? Oh, right.
But this is Lisa is probably more pissed at Homer than she's ever been. And Homer has to regain her affection. Who knows how?
No wonder she hates me. Oh, I never even noticed she was alive.
Homer, if you want to make up with Lisa, just spend some time with her.
reused there.
Yep.
Reused audio.
From the first episode, I
Episode
believe.
1, it's when he's banging his head on the racetrack rail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just picked up on that immediately.
This is the third time, I think. I think maybe Stark Raving Dad could have been the next one or something like that.
I also appreciated the continuity they would have later. I think it's the first time we've seen Homer in Lisa's baby era of his hairline. And it would be the same hairline when they flash forward to Lisa's first word, which I guess would be not this year's flashback is Bart being born. The next year's flashback is Lisa's birth.
It's coming up soon.
I used this. My parents wouldn't help me get a car when I turned 16, and I just decided to stop speaking to them for about 2 months.
Oh, wow.
And everything got really bad, but I tried to use Lisa's tactics. And she didn't ask for a pony, mind you. She just they knew she wanted a pony.
Because Homer was afraid by hanging out with her, he'd be too fruity.
Yeah.
Spending time with Lisa, she'll forgive you.
Marge, if I spend any more time doing these girl things, I'm gonna, go fruity. No, you were right the first time with that quick fix idea. Let's see. Quick fix. I'll buy her that pony she's always bugging me for.
We can't afford to buy a pony.
Marge, with today's gasoline prices, we can't afford not to buy a pony.
That's my line of the show.
All of this is very close to my line of the show.
I love Homer going, ha ha, you love me.
That's my favorite part. And by the way, you assholes who claim to love The Simpsons, not Bob necessarily.
Oh,
Hank
thank
and
God
Dave,
I'm
we
out
work
of
together
this.
every day, and usually, you will come in the room, and I'm working at the station we're recording at, and you'll ask me something, and I'll be like, "Buh." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Snuh," and you never fucking get it.
You see my thumb drives. I know that joke. All my thumb drives are.
I love this exchange.
Art, I've got to get her a pony. When I look in Lisa's eyes, I don't see love anymore.
That's no reason to buy a pony.
See? Even when you yell at me, I can see love in your eyes.
Stick to the subject.
You love me.
Let's be realistic. A pony is very expensive, and we have enough trouble paying bills as it is.
Yeah.
You sound like you're going to buy a pony. Promise me you won't. What was that? Was that a yes or a no? Those aren't even words.
Snap.
Yes. And SNUH is Marge's group against cartoon violence in Itchy and Scratchy and Marge. SNUH.
What a revelation.
Which would come back, I guess, one last time as a punch sound effect in the Radioactive Man.
They love SNUH.
Thing. Yeah,
SNUH's great.
So I
should have called the show that.
By the way, the price of gas in 1991 was 56 cents a gallon.
So much. I'm weeping right now.
Yeah, and this feels...
Like we've all driven a car in the last 5 years.
Yeah, I
haven't driven one in 8 years.
Like the end of that scene, he's like he said both of those things, and Marge is just frustrated, and then it's a classic. Lights are out. Homer. Both eyes open, a giant shit-eating grin.
I love the cartoon eyes and mouth.
Totally.
Yeah.
They never do that. It's great.
This also feels this episode feels very looking backward to season one. One, because like Lisa and her pony is really more of a season one thing, even. And two, she barely mentioned it. It's not like her pony obsession does come back. This isn't like the end of it, but
who had a little sister?
I think they were stealing from merchandise because every character had their own like line that didn't really work too well. And Lisa's was a penny saved is a pony earned. I would see that on like posters and merchandise. Like wow, like they really had this pony idea for Lisa really early.
And so I think it was just Gene and Reese being like smart of just saying like, oh, she constantly mentions the pony. If we could just do that, that could be an episode.
I think it's a universally understood thing that a little girl would want and super expensive and unattainable.
And also in the season one spirit, it was so weird that they did him blow drying her face, the reference to the Bart the General, like with the
even
same
the animation.
It was just Lisa drawn over
and
Bart.
That's
so weird.
The great thing about this episode, the animated, I don't know what feats. The camera spinning around Lisa playing the saxophone.
Oh yeah, that's Carlos Baeza.
They go way out of the way to make this look like a really good television animated production. Because I think the comparisons to the Flintstones were like at an all-time high.
This is just a radio play animated. No,
let's
it's
show
actually,
you this is not the Flintstones when we can.
Do you have Homer going to All Creatures Great and Cheap?
I don't. Only because the salesman was not my Hank Azaria Bronson
merely
person.
take a left at the rendering plant. It has a joke that I'm not a fan of, which they started kind of doing this early, where Homer is also the smelliest man ever.
So I missed that. I missed mentioning that in the Treehouse episode because in last week's episode when they come upon Homer's body, they're like, oh, the stench is overpowering. Like, he's not dead. He just smells that bad. So that was the first ever Homer smells really bad thing. And then I've heard them in interviews say, why do we do this? Like, he's already stupid and fat. Why do we also have to give him the runner of he's the smelliest person
He's got to be allowed to meet people before offending them.
He smells worse than a mall pet shop.
He smells worse than a rendering plant. Like a pig fat.
And I think exactly. And there's an episode later where he's going to like I think it is the rendering plant. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, it's when they're next door. Like,
that's right. Yeah,
you'll be surprised how soon you get used to the smell of melted hog fat. Then Homer looks in the window next door, and the guy's working on it. Like, what's that smell?
It could be this rendering plant in this episode.
I'd like to think so. Does anybody remember the equestrian dame's name?
She is not named at all. She's actually like a parody of Katharine Hepburn.
Yeah, it should have been Tracy Ullman.
It should have just been the return of Winthrop, though.
But the name of the establishment is the Grateful Gelding. Do we know what a gelding is, everybody?
I do. I now know. I didn't know as a kid, but it is a castrated male horse.
Yes. So the idea of a Grateful Gelding is kind of strange.
It's a strange one. Also, that the Bronson voice guy would be running the pet store in Duffless.
He writes novels under the name of. I forget.
He thinks of the ending first, then writes backwards.
Listen, he's going to eat his kids in a minute here, kid.
I'm buying a pony for my little girl, and I don't care what it costs.
Very good. That stunning creature over there is $500,000.
$500,000?
He was sired by Seattle Slew, and his mother won the Kentucky Derby.
Wow.
His likeness graces a stamp in Tanzania.
I'll take it.
Mr. Simpson, do you have $500,000?
Sure. Let me write you a check.
Mr. Simpson, this check is dated January 1st, 2054.
Is there a problem with that?
Our ponies start at $5,000. Cash.
Isn't there like a pound where you can pick up cheap ponies that ran away from home?
I sincerely hope not.
That's only 38 years from now, Homer.
2054 doesn't feel that far away.
Does he not see how good at haggling he is? It went from $500,000 to $5,000.
Yeah. Well, that is for the top thoroughbred.
The Simpsons will be right back.
You like Laser Time shows? Then you might like Bonus Time, Laser Time's weekly bonus show exclusively on patreon.com/lasertime. Here's a taste of what you've been missing.
I was glad that I got sick after drinking with Wes. He had that whiskey, and I never drink whiskey. Every time I do, it's a bad time. So he's like, just take a pull. I'm like, a pull? How much is a pull?
A finger.
So I'm like, gulp, one gulp of it. That seems enough. True to form, I did get sick.
Ooh, I'm
debating whether I should have done this, but I took the bus home. And it was one of those things where I'm like fading in and out on the bus.
God, you're one of those people.
Yeah. I somehow luckily get my wits back right as the bus is pulling up to my street. I get out and I think everything's fine. But about like 5 steps in, I'm like, gonna be sick. Literally just spew probably like a water balloon's worth. A small water balloon.
What color?
Pink. I got a little bit out, so I felt like maybe that's all I needed. But no, it was literally every half block. I would barf another.
Hansel and Greteling your way through San Francisco.
And I was so tempted to the next morning just retrace my steps. But I was hungover, so I didn't.
Get Bonus Time, Laser Time's weekly, full-length, uncensored, and ad-free Patreon-exclusive podcasts, as well as weekly full-length movie commentaries, wrestling and cartoon video commentaries, physical rewards, the first season of Talking Simpson, and more at patreon.com/lasertime, starting at just $5. You'll help us live, and we'll do our best to help you never be bored again. Homer needs money. I still don't get this joke.
Money.
But
I do.
In terms of in
finally
terms of like the things I saw my dad lose his mind over. Like when I knew my dad loved The Simpsons as much as I did. It was this exchange when Homer goes to the plant to ask for money and Burns shows up.
Burns shows up. I just love that at first.
Yeah.
Like again, it's the writer saying, "Why doesn't Burns just do it? Like,
Yeah.
why would he take he can take
And
a
I
loan from
truncated this a little
anybody?"
bit,
But
like
And Homer asked the same question.
Yeah.
I'd like to borrow $5,000.
Hello. Simpson, eh? How can I help you?
Mr. Burns, you do this personally?
No, it's a hobby. I'm not in this for any personal gain, heavens no. By the way, are you acquainted with our state's stringent usury laws?
Yes.
Usury?
No, silly me. I must have just made up a word that doesn't exist. Now, what is the purpose of this loan?
I want to buy a pony.
Isn't that cute? Smithers, he's planning on joining the horse he set. That is it, isn't it? You're not planning to eat it.
Eat it, Jesus.
I do like his. I must have made up a word that didn't exist.
And usury is not a thing that comes up in court cases.
I've never heard it ever in my life.
I looked it up for this. Usury is the practice of making unethical or immoral monetary loans that unfairly enrich the lender.
My dad had to explain it to me.
Yeah, that's how the Jews were persecuted.
Yes.
Like they're usurers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like every credit card I've signed up for.
Yeah,
so.
and we should point out, like, this is in the days of unions, and if you had worked at a big company, you probably had a credit union, and they would reward you for investing in the company by keeping your money within the company at a bank.
I still have money in a Florida employee commerce bank.
Wow.
In Florida. So like $200. Let's see what it looks like. Maybe it's got that Fry Futurama thing on it for 20 years.
The way Burns is like his malevolent laughter and then just really like, Smithers was saying something funny. I didn't say anything funny. Shut up.
His
like, that's
commitment to
classic.
being an evil character through getting money. It's just
I just love like, shut up. It's just a running thing everyone says in The Simpsons.
This is almost my favorite line of the show. Bart asking, like, Homer does get Lisa the pony,
and we have the obligatory Godfather joke in which she wakes up with the horse in the bed, which, like, Lisa would wake up with Homer putting a pony inside of the bed, unless he drugged the pony or something.
Scream from
but who cares? Because
I agree.
I mean, that scene is great. I've heard Chris, you're a Disney fan. Yeah. I've heard that's them. That's Walt Disney they're making fun of. Like they're the man in Godfather who they put the horse head in. That's Walt Disney, producer. Who is the producer who liked getting with his young ladies and was mad that Frank Sinatra got with her instead, and so he makes a film that Frank Sinatra can't have. That I had heard that was Disney specifically they were making.
Wow, I had no idea.
I just love this line. It's great.
Hey, how come Lisa gets a pony?
Because she stopped loving me.
I don't love you either, so give me a moped.
I know you love me, so you don't get squat.
This episode, Homer has the uncanny ability to sense who loves him and who doesn't.
That's how he gets over Marge, too.
Yeah. Like, I don't think I could tell.
No. Every day I wonder, this is the day my girlfriend leaves me. This is when it happens.
Well, with parents, did you ever have that feeling?
It might be when we're recording Simpsons podcast at 8 o'clock on a Friday night.
She packed her bags, but you were too busy recording a podcast to know.
But the pony is named Princess. It goes by pretty fast if you didn't catch that.
Yeah, you don't really hear it until the very end.
The Katharine Hepburn lady is not named, but the pony is in this episode.
Love costs a lot of months. $530 to store a pony, which
seems cheap.
I think that's quite.
It's more than the host a podcast and a website.
Yeah, and in fact that also includes writing lessons and language lessons.
Seems like a steal to me.
Yeah, it's a lot less than Stampy would be in a few years.
The Grateful Gelding is really got a racket going there because one, they sell it to Homer for $5,000. They charge him for at least a month of stable fees, and then they just Lisa gives it back. It is not implied they get the money back. I hate to cut to the end, but they just get a free horse back. They can just sell again for $5,000.
I just have to play this.
Homer, just where were you planning to keep this horse?
I've got it all figured out. By day, it'll roam free around the neighborhood, and at night, it'll nestle snugly between the cars in our garage.
Dad, no!
That's illegal.
That's for the courts to decide.
That's a great line. I just wanted to mention, it was a Total Recall moment. In about 16 and 17, I went through a year in high school where I didn't speak. And then when I did, it was in the Homer inflection of talking like this and then kind of like this. And everybody treated me very weirdly, and I couldn't understand why, because I thought I was speaking the funniest way I could. I don't know. Had not thought of that in a long time.
Wow. Then the next act begins with another thing totally unrelated to the story, but in case you're a new listener, we all write about video games or used to. So what did we think of the Atari game they were playing in 1991?
It's not quite
he's playing Asteroids.
It's not quite as savvy as their Punch-Out parody. It's not parodying a specific game, which I was disappointed in. But I like Dan Castellaneta's what seems like improv, where's the hyperspace?
I forgot this existed because I didn't start taping The Simpsons on Sundays until season 3.
So they hacked it out.
That was totally hacked out because it starts with the stronger joke, which is like, oh, you have a gift for me? Oh, I thought it'd be money.
I got down on the floor for this.
That's a great line.
But in 1991, at the very least, don't draw an Atari controller. That's nobody had been playing with that for a decade.
Yeah,
for 5 years.
I think maybe the Punch-Out parody did have joysticks though. But that was 2 years ago. They have had time to learn. But I did enjoy the sort of improv-y, Dr. Cat style between Nancy and Dan.
We pointed out all cartoon shows got video game controllers wrong.
Yeah.
And Henry pointed out in this an issue you can buy right now on Comixology, the Archie. Yeah. Archie gets every controller in every era completely right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The Archie comics. It's insane.
Well, the Archie, it's underappreciated in Archie comics, but the artists and writers work hard to be right with the trends because they know the savvy kids they want reading it will know if they're wrong about a fact.
There's an Archie video game collection where all the stories revolve around video games. And every era that it's in, it looks like an NES controller. It looks like a PlayStation controller. It looks like, let's just say, a third controller. I can't remember.
It totally is worth $5 just to see.
I read the whole thing.
They're like, they wrote this one when the Pokemon craze was on. They wrote this one when Super Mario was on. They wrote this one when Pac-Man was on.
And I remember being hypercritical of that as a little kid because video games are my world. The Simpsons now need money because of Princess.
Dear, we're in serious trouble here. We're just going to have to cut down on luxuries.
Well, we're always buying Maggie vaccinations for diseases she doesn't even have.
Actually, I was thinking we could cut down on your beer.
No, we're not going to be doing that.
I'm afraid there's no choice but to give up the pony.
First, you didn't want me to get the pony. Now you want me to take it back. Make up your mind.
Homer.
Marge, Lisa loves me. The pony stays.
All right. You got us into this, you get us out.
Fine, I will. There's plenty of money out there for a guy who's willing to work for it.
Damn right.
The Simpsons having a meeting about money problems is a very season 3 and 4 idea, which I like because it does root them in some sense of reality. Like, we are not infinite money cartoon characters. We can't just do whatever we want.
I did like his follow-up line there, like, you don't have any jewelry you don't like anymore, do you?
But in season, but by season 7, Bart will say, "Can I have $700?"
But
here you go.
The strange vision, because I do remember my dad's very savvy with money and stuff and does all his own taxes, that I've never felt the need, and I was afraid watching this, am I going to have to spend a month on a calculator on the kitchen table figuring out expenses? And like now that I don't ever, like, am I living an adult life wrong?
I think there's software now.
I did think, but I also thought, like, when we're always spending money on these vaccinations Maggie doesn't use, I'm like, well, you know what? I've been spending money on health insurance every month this year.
Tax penalty
I haven't been using it.
The tax penalty is less than your premiums. I know it because I lived it.
And then you just have to cross your fingers and hope you never get sick.
Yeah, it'll never happen to me.
And I love this storyline. I keep confusing it. I kept expecting James Woods to show up.
Oh, it's very much like Dog of Death, actually, where it's like we got to cut things from our lives.
But
One scratch for cash, please.
This is great.
Liberty Bell. 2 Liberty Bells. Come on. Oh, yes! Woohoo! 3 Liberty Bells!
What?
That'll be $10,000, Apu.
Oh, congratulations, Mr. Homer.
Thank you.
If I could just see the ticket.
Well, there it is.
You pleased to be removing your thumb?
No.
Yes, please, I must insist.
No.
I have to look at the ticket.
No,
Mr.
you can't
Homer.
see.
Yes,
Come
I
on.
must. You
No.
have to remove
No.
your...
Let go. You're ripping it.
Cherry. Oh, Mr. Homer, what has reduced you to such cheap chicanery?
Oh, I need money.
Well, if you need money, you should have at least jammed a gun in my ribs. Or better yet, you could inquire about my help wanted sign.
You're looking for help?
Yes, we need someone for the demanding yet high-profile midnight to 8 a.m. shift.
I'm your man.
You're hired.
I like Apu's a cherry.
That would have been my favorite line, but it has more to do with the musical cue.
Yeah.
A cherry.
But yeah, I love all this scene. Like, first Homer chanting "need money" before going in, just to make it clear he needs money, and then Dan's acting on pretending he won, like Homer, and the great Dan and Hank improv there.
They have to be together in the same room.
And I think this episode is the closest they gotten to Apu to this date. Like, most lines he'd ever had, I'd say too.
Yeah.
And
Is this the first Mr. Homer?
And when he says,
it
when he says, "One of you would be working for me,"
I
like,
love that line. I wish
funny.
I would have captured it. But this, I did capture this because I just remembered this before we ever started the show. There's a bunch of kids crowding around to watch Lisa play with Princess, and it's the most not. It's the
biggest, one of the biggest animation gaffes.
The biggest animation gaffes of the third season.
This is season 1.
He has Nelson's voice.
Yeah, this is Ralph Wiggum, by the way, the last kid to speak.
He certainly tamed that horse.
Yes, but what man can tame her?
So look, I do agree. Nancy fucked up his voice, and that is the Nelson voice, but. That is the character until he learned about spirochetes in the Bergstrom episode. Ralph was this character. Very Wrigley.
It's just that, like, his character model is so on model.
Yeah.
And here, like, everything else is working right now, and hearing that voice come out of Ralph at this stage in The Simpsons
Though
is so
it wasn't that long ago that the Chocolate Factory episode also kind of slightly off-model voice for him.
I'm going to eat chocolate till I barf.
Yeah, it's like...
that sounded more like Nelson there, too. That's true.
This is a personal clip. I shouldn't even play it. It's Lisa playing to Princess in the stable.
This next song is also about a girl and her pony. It's called Wildfire.
So, Jesus, see, I feel like this is indulgent. Like any white people in the 80s, my parents were very into James Taylor.
Oh,
and
mine too.
I had a little rideable with the horse on a stick thing, and my parents named it Wildfire. It was my favorite toy, and it was and like sooner or later, like, you know what your toy got its name, son? Wildfire. Put on a record. Listen to this, and I grew up loving the song Wildfire because it was my favorite toy. So to me, this, like, I feel like the song is bigger than it is. Like, people might not know that's James Taylor.
I really don't.
I never knew it was a James Taylor song.
She'll
until
be
today.
riding wildfire. fire.
I thought it was a song Lisa, until right now, I thought it was a song Lisa made up. Like, she's like, I made up this song called Wildfire.
That is James Taylor, baby.
So Homer is sleep deprived from working at the Kwik-E Mart, and we get a great, only purely visual sequence set to Golden Slumbers by the Beatles, where he's driving in his car and it turns into like a bed, and he's like lifted by angels, and the moon is winking at him. It's like Little Nemo. And I always think of this when I come home from a work trip, when I'm like, I'm so tired, I just want to get back into my bed. I imagine myself as Homer, just being like carried away, and the moon is like.
I had a few instances like this during my like college days, because I went to a commuter college, and I had the brilliant idea one semester to stack it. So I basically had like 1.5 days of class. So one day would literally be 12 hours of classes, and sometimes I would sneak a nap in there, but a lot of times I would not. And I would also cram and do a lot of my work the night before, pull an all-nighter.
Not Dave.
Yes, and then do 12 hours of like college, and then drive home. And there are times that I came close to pulling a Homer in this instance.
I've had recurring nightmares about driving and being unable to open my eyes.
Yeah,
that's a driving and falling asleep while driving terrifies
me. My commute was like, oh, I'm on these highways where I'm the only car for a mile.
I've gotten tired. That has happened.
And I had cars so shitty that the radio barely worked.
My big question is, you just wrote up something about the Simpsons arcade game.
Yeah.
That came out February of 91?
Yeah, it was before this episode aired.
But this is a level in the Simpsons arcade game.
It is, in a way.
Yes,
clearly, but it is. It's black and white. It takes place in the clouds. Has the same sun and moon. But we talked about the Simpsons didn't have a lot to go on, and we're sending like perspective sketches.
Yeah, it could have been a pre-production sketch or something like that. I totally agree.
I would believe that. Yeah.
But what I love about this scene, though, is like there are no jokes for 45 seconds. They let the beauty of the music and the animation carry the scene, and then the joke comes at the end, and it's worth it. But it's like that still gives me goosebumps. That song and the animation and Homer.
They trusted Carlos Baeza and his team to do it well.
Remember what I said about "fuck you, Flintstones"? There's no dream sequences in the Flintstones.
So the music in that scene is the Beatles song "Golden Slumbers," though it's not an instrumental. It is, but so that's the thing. They talk about how they wanted that song. Like Gene and Reese imagine like this scene works with Golden Slumbers. They spent what they thought was a shitload of money on it. And when they got it, they're like, this is a cover. Yes, like a Beatles cover, licensing song rights will cost you a shitload of money.
Wow.
A Beatles master will cost you $500,000.
Yeah, that's what Mad Men did a few years ago.
Right? But there's a giant gap in between the World According to Garp, When I'm 64, and that Mad Men using a real Beatles song. That did not happen in any entertainment.
I mean, so the difference too is that like the reason you'll hear a cover of You Want a Revolution in a Nike ad, which drove Paul McCartney crazy, is because they didn't have the song licensing rights. That was Michael Jackson and his company.
Oh, right, yeah.
But the master rights were owned by Apple Records, and so they got to be a little choosier about who got it, and the prices could be even higher. But I mean, they are Beatles songs, just like a Led Zeppelin song. You almost never hear a Led Zeppelin song and stuff.
Beatles even less. I think we're only going to start to hear that like within the next 5 years, especially after the next one dies. I'm saying Paul.
You can't hear like 5 notes of Stairway in Wayne's World because of Led Zeppelin. It sucks.
But
that joke is ruined, and I hate it.
I think it is opening up more, at least on the Beatles side of things, because 5 years ago, I cannot imagine that like the Amazon Music app has every Beatles album. You can just stream it.
It doesn't matter how young you are. You have to remember when the Beatles came to iTunes, and the iTunes changed their marketing for a month.
Yeah,
like we have the Beatles. Does anybody want to discover the Beatles on iTunes? Is that even a thing?
Those songs are all on YouTube.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
No one really cares.
But that was like I remember going to Union Square in San Francisco, and there were 4 billboards of just like the Beatles. Now, this band that broke up 40 years ago
finally give us money.
Here.
Yeah.
Well, I also remember in 2008 it was a big deal, or in the late 2000s when they put out the reissue. They reissued all the albums, and like, this is the re-release, this is it, and it was. I think music writers were calling it the last CDs you will ever buy. These are them. Like, this is the end of CDs because the perfect Beatles CDs came out.
During this is my favorite light dough from Homer as he goes to bed for 1 minute.
I do like the table saw hitting his head, though. It looks very painful.
Yes.
Homie, how long do you plan to do this?
I don't know. How long do horses live?
30 years?
Yep.
Joe.
I like all the stuff in Homer in his Kwik-E Mart outfit. That's the trainee Kwik-E Mart outfit that Apu never wears until he gets fired from the Kwik-E Mart in the James Wood episode.
Yeah. Bart calls him Pink Hat.
I love when Bart calls him Pink Hat.
Though that's a change. It's not pink in the other scenes, but I think they realized in the audio it's Pink Hat. So like, well, we got to paint it pink for this scene, but it's not pink in every other scene.
I like when he's like, yes, sir.
But it is weird to think by this math that Princess is still alive. Like,
yeah.
We do see
this is Dave's obsession, by the way.
Yeah, anytime we do a Monday night movie commentary via Patreon.com.
The movie's more than 20 years old. It must be pointed out the dog is dead.
The dog is dead. The cat is dead.
We see a little taste of Apu's single life, which I think Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein would revisit in the 22 short films about Springfield, which he has a lot of sex.
Which just celebrated its 20th anniversary.
Oh God, no help!
But yeah,
but Princess Cashmere
the
comes
return
back.
of Princess Cashmere. They like, well, who would be having casual sex with Apu? Princess Cashmere. That's
someone
it.
involved in a scandal.
Al Jean and Reese mentioned that they didn't mean for it to sound like Apu orgasms before that scene started. He's like, come on, Apu, get in here. Like, whoa. Oh, he's destroying my store, and he's like, "Whoa!" That could
he mentions bringing her to climax.
Like, yes, yeah.
But I feel like we've been teasing this for several episodes. We talked about the writers being former Carson writers.
Oh, good.
And this is the biggest slam on Carson.
I just heard Milli Vanilli was arrested for impersonating a McNugget. Oh, this is true.
Well, it's still fun to be up late.
It really is great because the joke is there is no joke.
Yeah.
He's just saying like contemporary things that someone fed him.
He loves the word McNugget.
I think it's surprisingly mean for The Simpsons.
Yeah. I forgot
that's a real person.
I forgot how mean that was of Bart. Like the joke is Bart knows it's not funny
as a 10-year-old.
Yeah, and then it's
8-year-old.
It's just like their jokes about the political singer in a few episodes ago of just them saying like, we want to be clear, we don't like, and then the characters just say, we want to be clear, we don't think he's funny either.
But they make up a fake name for him, and they've been showing Johnny Carson in like every episode leading up to this.
And he'll be a guest soon. I guess he forgot about all of that.
It'll be a year and a half till then.
Johnny doesn't watch TV.
Also, speaking of reusing animation, very lazily they reused the Lisa Mumps thing.
I noticed that.
Just to fill time of like, when are you going to stop loving me? They just repeated, they reused the animation from at the start of the episode of him answering the phone, and then of Lisa calling him on the phone asking for a Teen Boy magazine.
Exactly. We not only see the mumps on Lisa's face, we see Homer wearing the assassins that are all torn up.
Right.
So I was like, this is a really out of place scene in this episode.
Wow.
It's
clearly they were late.
So they could cut to some other time he was on the phone at the power plant. That's weird.
Yeah,
it's so insane. Again, kids, you'll never see this again. They'll never use animation cells
at that point.
It's really out of place though, because we see Homer's shoes in the beginning. It's very important that he writes the note on his shoes, but in that scene he's wearing the assassins that are all tuned up. Post Santa's little helper, I think.
They must have just been desperate to fill more time.
You all ready for my line of the show?
I did like Bart's reaction to finding out he works at the Kwik-E Mart.
I have all that there, but Lisa gets the line of the show for me.
Oh, good.
That's the joke.
What's wrong with Dad?
He's just exhausted. Lisa, do you know how much it costs to keep a pony?
No.
Well, it's a lot. In fact, your father had to take a second job.
The poor guy. Where's he working?
The Kwik-E Mart. Lisa, I hope you realize that your father can't keep this up.
You're gonna make me give up Princess?
Lisa, we can't make you give up that pony.
I can make her. Just give me 5 minutes alone with her.
No, Bart. No one's going to make her. This is something Lisa has to decide for herself.
All the years I've lobbied to be treated like an adult have blown up in my face.
That is a joke that me and my brother would make about our little sister. Like, just give us 5 minutes with her.
5 minutes alone with her.
I think I have considered I'm not smart. The only way I had any foresight is I hated the idea of being adult. I hate the idea of being adult every day. Always have. And you all should too. I just always remember that episode we did of Laser Time with April Richardson. She's like obsessed with Saved by the Bell, and we're like the same age. Great. And I was like, I watched that show, but like I didn't want to get involved with high school caste systems. I didn't want to age any more beyond my NES and playing football with my
Funny
friends.
Was as far as you wanted.
Yeah. I never wanted that. Still don't. And
I was good at 12.
Yeah, adult dreams blowing up in your like being asked to make an adult decision always sucks, and I love Lisa being able to realize that.
Katharine Hepburn gets a pretty good deal here. Again, she just gives him back. Gives her back.
I do like her line, like, I can assure you my heart is brave.
She likes a little carrot after her oats. And and she really likes it when you scratch her behind the ear. And if you're playing the radio, she likes contemporary adult in the morning and easy listening at night. Please take good care of my princess.
Although there is no change in my patrician facade, I can assure you my heart is breaking.
Father, I'm having ever so much fun.
I think that's a terrible line read incredibly well by the voice
Zach.
actor.
She's great. I think it is worth mentioning the animation on the horse is very good. Like they're not photographing a horse. Like to draw an animal naturalistically in the Simpsons style cannot be easy.
And they studied the the photography of Edward Muybridge, which was basically the first study in animation. Like it was like a bet between rich people. Like I bet the horse's feet don't all touch the ground at the same time when it's galloping. So they set up a bunch of cameras along the ground. The horse would run. They would all go off. That's essentially how animation was created.
Wow.
Shit.
Yeah, I forget who won.
I believe all the feet are off the ground at the same time.
Okay, yeah.
when it's running.
So that, like, a bet between rich people made animation happen.
Thank you, rich people.
Thank you.
Finally, they're pulling their weight.
Yeah,
You invented animation on
they're
accident.
out there popping a cork.
Yes.
They finally thanked us.
I do have a line in the show, Apu saying that the young man you replaced is rolling over in his grave.
Yeah. All of that exchange is amazing.
Yeah.
I called last episode the perfect cartoon, but I do think this is the perfect Simpsons episode.
So
at this point,
Apu is so lenient. Like he should have fired Homer like a while ago. So I think it's just that working at the Kwik-E Mart is the least wanted job of anyone.
I think it's the perfect episode. I love how it culminates with Bart harassing Homer at the job he now knows he has.
Yeah.
And Lisa shows up to say, like, well, you're free of this burden. But every Apu line involved with that is awesome.
Giddy up, Dad!
That's so cute.
He slept, he stole, he was rude to the customers. Still, there goes the best damned employee a convenience store ever had.
And I really love the pink sky, the pink light cast on everyone. It reminds me of the end of Three Men in a Comic Book when it's like a very, very beautiful dawn when like the weather's breaking and everyone's just in this beautiful lighting.
Her riding the Homer horsey is just so cute.
And
like,
again, Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein would borrow this for Lisa the Vegetarian.
Yeah. You're
How about
right.
a veggie ride?
Actually, Bob, that episode was executive produced by Dave Merkin. It was when the two Merkin took over for that season.
Oh, really? Okay.
Sorry, force a habit.
I will fight you now. But I'm sure Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein.
I did feel a little bit robbed that he said he was rude to customers, and we never got to see a real scene where he was rude to a customer.
It's just the implication that like
he was drinking out of the squishy machines.
There is no model convenience store employee because no one has any expectations for them.
No one survived long enough to be a model employee.
It is always strange to see like somebody who seems like they could do better than a convenience store, working at a convenience store. Like, what happened? Why are you here?
It's called a convenience store because it peddles in vices in more expensive products than you get at a regular grocery store. But you're here at 2.
Yeah,
so
Flanders is buying his groceries there.
I've always thought that was weird about The Simpsons.
He's overspending,
but it's only to see more Apu. Essentially, you can't have you don't want to make a cashier every time.
Oh, but that scene was weird. So was Ned? That's what I didn't get. Was Ned? Okay, Ned's counting out the pennies when he puts them down.
Sure.
So does that mean he is? Why is he laughing conspiratorially? Because it seems like he's giving him exact change. And Ned wouldn't, even at this point, Ned is a goody-goody who would not steal from the store or shortchange him, right?
I think he is giving exact change. The joke is he thinks he's getting away with something. Like, I'm so clever and I'm so funny. But he's just letting Homer sleep while he does the goody-goody thing, which is the joke.
It's not clearly...
That's supposed to be a scene where you see Homer is noticed and demeaned by his peers.
It could be that too, yeah. But I guess Ned is laughing at his... Ned is laughing that his next door neighbor is having such a bad time, I guess. Yeah, but though that seems a
the
little
rest of it is him being mocked by his family and just personal suffering.
Yeah, because it is shameful to have a job at a Kwik-E Mart. That's the message here, people. You failed if you work there.
Yeah, Kwik-E Mart. Yeah,
and the Simpsons will not own another pony until Saddle Sore Galactica, which is a terrible episode.
Is that the one with the cake song in it?
It's the one with the jockeys singing.
Yeah, that's
evil
that is
jockeys.
Literally, I think there's like 3 times where like I am punching out and leaving the show.
The commentary is great because Matt Groening has literally never seen that episode before.
Wow.
And he is reacting as you would expect him to.
And
like
that again, Frank Grimes was one of those episodes too, which
I love the Frank Grimes
I've recanted.
Okay.
Now it's meta and it makes sense. But that episode in particular, like I'll never watch the show
that
again.
could be the end of the show for me. It could have been a great last episode.
When Comic Book Guy just shows up to say worst episode ever, that's them. That is one of those most clear middle fingers they ever gave to fans. Like if you notice and care about this, fuck off.
Yeah,
You're as
like,
bad as comic
we're
book
phoning
guy.
it in and we love it.
Yeah. This will have no ending where the stakes will be do what they say or they'll eat your brains, and then they're just going to beat the shit out of a bunch
Save
of
it for a
jockeys.
couple years. Just sit on it.
We'll see you in 2019 for Battlestar Galactica, maybe. I assume I'll be alive.
That episode sucks.
It's bad. Anyways, but Lisa's Pony was so good. Am I right, guys?
Yeah.
Great episode.
This is the
very
best
touching.
episode of The Simpsons of the season.
Again, schmaltzy
So far.
ending, last 10 seconds. They earn every second of it. Unlike other episodes, they really work for this.
I
and
still
love
love the Krusty stuff more, and the Like Father Like Clown is still my favorite so far of this season. Krusty's so fucking
I
funny.
love
It's just fun to listen to
Krusty,
Krusty.
but just the cohesion of everything, the animation, the jokes, the pace of the jokes.
This could be our longest episode ever, by the way.
Holy
Looking
shit.
at the timeline.
Let's get out of here.
Yes, we got to punch out ourselves. I have been Bob Mackey, your host. As always, you can find me on Twitter as Bob Servo. I also write for US Gamer and Something Awful, and you can check out my classic gaming podcast, Retronauts, at usgamer.net or retronauts.com, or just search for Retronauts in your podcast device. Everybody else, Henry, what do you do?
Well, I, along with the other three scallywags here, we work on many podcasts and written things on lasertimepodcast.com. That includes the original pop culture exploration, Laser Time, 30-2010, our exploration of 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and 10 years ago in the same week. It's a bit like the history lesson on this podcast, except bigger. And, of course, there's Cape Crisis, my comic book podcast. But if I had to tell you one thing that's worth plugging, it's patreon.com/lasertime. If you enjoy this, you know all the first season of Talking Simpsons is only accessible for $5 a month at patreon.com/lasertime.
Right there waiting for you.
As is our season 2 wrap up, which has some seriously deep cuts of Simpsons stuff that you've never heard of.
honestly-
I'd never heard of.
If you think we're nerdy here, wait till you hear that episode, because you're going to disown us.
As a Simpsons fan, if you're listening to this and just discovered us, I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice by not having that first season, because that's when you discover the first appearance of everybody, when everybody's voice and personality changes, when Lenny sounds like Moe.
Yeah.
Like watching the show fall into place, and I know a lot of people don't want to revisit that first season, and that's why we didn't make it available for everybody.
But it's a
But if
lot
you
of
want
fun.
it.
It's worth it. It's totally worth it. Just watching those episodes
I just
again,
hope
I loved
everybody
it.
does, because we're all doing this together, going through the whole show together.
I host Cheap Podcast, a pro wrestling podcast. This is making me think I should do an episode about wrestlers who had second jobs. There was the accountant wrestler, the garbage man wrestler, the race car driver
I think
wrestler.
of IRS. Is that the guy you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
What
yeah.
a horrible
Erwin
era.
Arsheister.
What a horrible era of WWF. But, by the way, Simpsons, we played a bunch of Simpsons games. You can find those on youtube.com/lasertime network, including when we thought Harry Shearer had quit The Simpsons.
Oh, right.
It's still called the Goodbye Harry Shearer stream.
Yeah, it still is, but it's a lot of fun. youtube.com/lasertime
That Simpsons
network.
game is the best and worst from 07. It is terrible.
I agree.
But filled with wonderful things.
And real animation.
And we slowly go through it and we find an excuse, because I really hate the game.
Yeah.
It's bad. So we'll be back next week with the episode about Bart entering the soapbox races. We'll see you then, everybody.
Man.
Wow, infotainment.